Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa here on France 24. I'm Fraser Jackson. Here are the stories making headlines across the continent this evening. Facing an ongoing Ebola outbreak, Uganda received its first shipment of trial vaccines. One of 3 candidate jabs. Trials in the country will begin shortly. Nigeria's defense chief has dismissed a Reuters news agency report that the country's army is operating a secretive abortion program in the country's northeast, calling the claims a waste of his energy. And as a UN climate conference takes place in Montreal, we'll find out how important Africa is in the fight to maintain global biodiversity. It's good to have you with us. Uganda has received its first batch of trial vaccines as the country grapples with an Ebola outbreak. The jab aims to tackle a strain of the virus which so far has claimed 56 lives and infected hundreds. The Sudan strain currently has no vaccine, but 3 candidate jabs will be trialled in the country in the coming weeks. With more from neighbouring Rwanda, here's France 24's Clément Dioma.
The 1,200 vaccine doses were long awaited in Uganda, manufactured by an American institute. They will be administered for trials to volunteers, immediate contact cases of people infected by Ebola, so the people that are most at risk. But this first batch will only be used to test and research, which could take several months. The World Health Organization reminded the country that no treatment has been approved so far for the strain responsible for this latest outbreak of the epidemic, the Sudanese strain, unlike the one in DR Congo, the neighboring country, which already has an approved vaccine. But Uganda is no longer racing against the disease. Since no new cases have been detected for 9 days now, the last infected patient is now cured and was released last week. For the authorities, the battle seems almost won, but the Ministry of Health and humanitarian organizations remain very cautious. The 2 most affected districts are still confined. Travel is prohibited there until at least mid-December, and 50 contact cases are still being followed. So there's no ruling out a new potential outbreak at the moment.
Well, Clément has just recently returned from Uganda, where he found that the measures taken to curb the outbreak seem to be bearing fruit. The country has detected only 1 case in recent weeks, but restrictions are affecting some parts of the economy. Take a look.
In Kampala, the market never sleeps. Products arrive and are sent to all corners of Uganda, but these trucks, supplying a central district, are at a standstill.
Before, we could load a truck like this one in a day. Now we need at least 3.
An Ebola epidemic broke out 3 months ago in Mubende, a region confined by the government to stop the spread of the virus, which has already killed 55 people. The local economy is slowing down. Since then, these traders have struggled to earn a living.
Because of the lockdown in the region of Mubende, even if we manage to load a truck and take it there, the dealers and the customers cannot move. So our business isn't doing well.
In October, Ebola spread to the capital, a threat for the tourism industry still recovering after COVID. The government was careful not to frighten the 500,000 annual visitors, but the American clients of this agency manager still postponed their trip.
Challenge was with the United States, and people are going back. They have to go through those specific airports. It has a huge impact on the economy if there's like a lockdown or if there are these outbreaks of diseases like Ebola.
The authorities also closed schools 2 weeks before the holidays. Just before that, this teacher is giving a final lesson on Ebola.
Who can tell us something about Ebola?
Because Ebola can kill this body.
These students have already been out of school for 2 years during COVID, the longest closure in any country.
You know, when Corona was still with us, they lost a lot. And now this year has begun. Towards the end, as we are trying to catch up with our studies, now Ebola has come in. Really, it has affected our children so much.
Drastic but effective measures, according to the government, which claims to have nearly defeated the epidemic.
Nigeria's defense chief has rubbished a Reuters report that the military ran a secret mass abortion program in the country's northeast. The news agency alleged that since 2013, the Nigerian army has maintained a secret, systematic and illegal abortion program that has terminated at least 10,000 pregnancies, many of which were among women and girls kidnapped and raped by Islamist militants. Rights groups have insisted the report be investigated, but the country's defense chief said it would be a waste of energy. From Nigeria, here's France 24's Sam Olukoya.
The military has in the past faced several allegations of human rights abuses, but the allegation that it ran secret programs under which it forcefully carried out about 10,000 abortions on women and girls is certainly the most serious. The report carried disturbing allegations, including how some of the victims died in the course of the forced abortions. The victims were said to be pregnant for jihadist groups like Boko Haram, who earlier held them captives. It was alleged that once the military rescues them, forced abortions were carried out to stop them from giving birth to children that may become jihadists in future, like their fathers. But Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo, described the report as false. He said he will not dignify the report, nor will he waste his energy on it. But many Nigerians are spending energy sharing the report on social media and commenting on it. A local women's rights group described the allegations as a horrific assault on poor women and girls. The rights group Amnesty International has called on the Nigerian government to investigate the allegations against the army. The Nigerian government has so far not commented on the issue.
Sam Alakoya for us there in Nigeria. The UN is reporting that at least 131 civilians have been killed by M23 in eastern DR Congo. The violence has seen arbitrary shootings, stabbings, rapes and abductions of locals, described as unspeakable by the world body. Following peace talks, the rebel group said they were ready to withdraw from occupied territory this week. But the UN said that despite this, the group's attacks against civilians could potentially indicate an escalation of the conflict. Well, it's been called the last best chance to save Earth's ecosystems and species from destruction. After last month's COP27 climate summit, a meeting dubbed COP15 has opened in Montreal with a focus on protecting global biodiversity, of which Africa is home to a quarter. Francois Riouet sent us this update.
There's a lot to be done here at the COP15 in Montreal to better protect biological diversity. Among them, the African continent has every reason to worry, since many of the rare earth treasures are between the Great Lakes Congo region to the Guinean forest in West Africa. We met with the DRC's delegation representative, Joseph Monga, who thinks that the protection of biological diversity starts with the protection of indigenous local communities.
Our brothers and sisters are abandoned. There are killings in Congo. We are under attack by the M23 rebels. How can we protect species and biodiversity as long as indigenous peoples are not protected? Our minerals, our resources are mined by Western countries. But if we'd process them locally, we would have jobs. We would be able to help indigenous communities.
$154 billion are spent every year on the protection of nature, according to the United Nations. Twice this amount will be needed by 2025. 3 times this amount, nearly $1 trillion, will be needed by 2030 to better protect
the only African team left in the competition, the hopes of a continent are on their shoulders. Millions across sub-Saharan Africa will watch their game against Portugal on Saturday. But for the first time, they won't be watching it via French channel Canal+, but rather a Togolese channel called New World TV. Our team went to investigate how a regional broadcaster won the contract for the world's biggest sporting event.
Since the beginning of the World Cup in Qatar, a Togolese channel has been broadcasting all football matches exclusively in 19 French-speaking African countries. A small revolution for an African television group that knocked out the French audiovisual giant Canal+.
In Doha, we have about 50 technicians, sound engineers, telecom engineers,
Creators who speak your national language. It's something else.
The meteoric rise of this channel, which has also won the rights to broadcast all other FIFA competitions in French-speaking Africa, intrigues the competition.
People are mistaken in thinking that the government is behind this. This channel belongs to young Africans from the European and American diaspora who got together to found NWT, with a simple policy, a Pan-African channel for Africans.
New World Television has recruited highly coveted football consultants such as Basil Boli, Emmanuel Adebayor or Kylian Mbappe's father. At last count, 13 million Africans watch the matches via their phones or through encrypted channels, sub-licensed by New World Television.
And finally, French luxury powerhouse Chanel has held its first show in Africa by putting glitz and 70s fashions on display at a special event in Senegal. The company's Métier d'Art show is meant to highlight the skills of its craftspeople and showcases embroiders, jewelers, glove makers, and more. The show has taken place outside of the official fashion show calendar since 2002 and been held in Shanghai, Salzburg, and more, but never in Africa. A Chanel representative said Dakar was chosen because of chance encounters, but also the city's growing cultural influence. Still out of my budget, however. That's it for now. Stay tuned to France 24. There's more news coming up very shortly.